get the word out for the week. I know some people probably thought, rightfully so, that I wasn't going to do this tonight, but I honestly wouldn't stop doing these Bonnet Chronicles unless it was painful to me or, depressive. And I won't lie, these last few days have taken its toll on my mental health like a lot of people. And we're going to touch upon some of these things tonight. Um, I just want to thank people though to start this off because when I started doing these mental health vlogs and Bonnet Chronicles and just ways to be open and try to shed a human light on these things, I didn't know that I would be able to do this. It isn't easy opening up and putting yourself out there. And I'm always grateful to those of you who reach out. And, I was rattled the other day. I'm going to be 100% honest because somebody in my family found me on Twitter. That had been the one social media place where I'd stayed away from family. They did not know about it. Most of them only followed me on Facebook, and I kept them at bay that way. And I had somebody who is a very close relative find me on Twitter and put a manipulative type tweet out to me. And I did not want to call big attention to it because it serves no purpose. I just know that the bigger this channel gets, the more people that I embrace in my life that don't utilize and manipulate me, the more I'm going to be reminded that I am related to people who don't care. And it's a painful process, but I don't have to let them get to me. I don't have to play the games. I can wish them well, but not have to be dragged back into the hell of dealing with their stuff. I'll admit that my family was all I knew for the longest time. There were times where they helped me. There were more times that they hurt me. I know that letting them back in means having them push upon me in a way that I can't financially or mentally support. And I know by saying that, I will get ire if they ever see this, which is more than likely because now that I know they follow me on that platform, they know I do these lives. And I just need people to know that I am keeping my boundaries up for a reason. I'm protecting my peace. I am protecting my mental health, and I am protecting the home that I fought so hard to get. The happiness that I am appreciating right now. And I refuse to give up. And I get that for some, it's hard to understand cutting off your family because for a lot of you don't have that toxic manipulation. But there are a lot of us going through that. And once you set that boundary, that's a freedom that you shouldn't give up for nothing. And they'll try it. They'll try you with every emotional gut punch, whether they're in poor health, whether it's something going down with their finances, or whether or not they'll have a home. And you just got to get to the point where you pray for them, but you can't be their anchor or their lifeline anymore. So if in the rare instance, you know who, you're watching this somehow, I'll pray for you. I'll give you all the positive vibes you need to get through what you're about to go through. But I no longer want to worry about those who say there are people that love me. But, I know there are people that love me. I don't need you to say that you're one of those people. I get what people say and how they say it. I get the tactics people use to make me open doors that I closed. No more. I'm not going to keep playing these games. But getting to the point of this topic, we have so many people that get riled up. And like I said, I let a family member rattle me. So it feeds right into the first topic. Because some of y'all made Twitter unbearable. I normally start these Bonnet Chronicles off with Twitter, but I needed to disconnect today. Because between the people arguing with a Bernie brat, which I'm going to get to in a moment, and people who wanted to argue with, well, not even argue, re-show Kyle Rittenhouse's bullshit, I need people to understand how you keep giving these people a platform and fame that they don't deserve. Kyle Rittenhouse is already a poster child for everything that's wrong with both conservative America and what it means to be male. This toxic, violent bullshit that has been rewarded in our society birthed that, gave it a gun, and allowed it to take 2 lives, injure a third, and get away with it. And because this murdering fuck is now going on a press tour and doing little viral videos, which wouldn't be viral if we stop giving him this attention, he knows what buttons to push. And what kills me is I didn't realize he had a Twitter because I'm trying not to think about him, or the fact that he can get away with shit like this when our kids can't even wear hoodies. But it troubles me that all the retweets I seen were outrage retweets. And people shouldn't be in your circles anymore that like and subscribe to assholes like the murderer from that invaded Kenosha. Because he wasn't even from Kenosha or whatever. I don't know the fucking background. All I know about him is that he took 2 lives and got away with it. And he might not like being called a murderer, but that's what he is. So showing me a video of him fake crying, which we knew he was fake crying on the fucking stand over gas prices. It was bad enough I seen that because I found out he had a Twitter, so I quickly blocked him, and I was like, okay, maybe I won't see him. But no, Twitter stays as Twitter does, screen capping it, so that everybody could continuously bitch and give this idiot a platform, spreading that bullshit. People don't believe me when I say we help give these fuckers platforms. But I'm going to tell you how I know this is true. I'm going to bring up a little image here and transition it over. I know this isn't their names, but this is what I refer to them. When I first started on Twitter, it was gaming stuff. It was about 2015 when I really started leaning heavily into politics and social issues. And these 2 clowns, welcome to the chat, Terry Antigo. These 2 fucking clowns tried me on immigration stances because, as you know, they were pro-Trump. I know this isn't their real name. I'm hoping we get to the point where this is what people refer them to. And you know how I know they no longer have a platform? Because enough of us started blocking them, we stopped arguing with them, we stopped amplifying their antics, and they faded from the Thunderdome of conservatism. Because they are a dime a dozen. You don't think there's enough tap dancing queens for the conservatives to mock and parade to say, we're not racist, see? We've got idiots like this saying what we want them to say. They have faded into obscurity, where Zircon and Burlap will forever be their moniker. So when I say stop retweeting the Rittenhouse kid, stop letting him get to you, stop being the libs that these idiots that can barely spell or read try to own, we have to stop. And it's like this on the left too. You know that girl that decided to go after Chantel Brown, who's, passionate about the Crown Act. For those of us who have gone natural, I know that I don't do a lot of videos without my bonnet, but for those of you who watch a lot of my mental health vlogs and stuff, no, I went natural 3 years ago. My hair is nice and coily and I love it. But years ago, on the workforce, there's no way. I had to perm the fuck out of my hair. I had to let it, lie it and fry it, as they called it. Never even thought about dyeing it purple because I had to remain that air of respectability. And in schools and in the workforce, Black women are often subjected to twisted standards about our hair. That's unfair. that causes both mental anguish and physical anguish because we're burning our follicles out of our heads to look more respectable. Respectable to who? A bunch of bigots who are going to microaggress us anyway, like Jane Campion? Doesn't matter how straight we make our follicles, they still see us as the help. So we need things like the Crown Act so that little girls can go to school and not have a teacher cut their hair, saying, oh, it's too unruly, it's too curly. So that we can have people respect us, whether we're on the workforce or in the educational field, and not tell us that our natural hair is a problem. And the fact that we have to have legislation to do that is sick, but that is the insidiousness of racism. So when you get distracted, welcome to the chat, Solomon Owl. Thank you for the alert. When you get distracted by these rose brats who I'm like, why are we still arguing with them? Bernie isn't and never will be a thing. They are the kiddie table of both politics and social issues. Their classism issues are always going to be first and foremost in all their arguments. You wanted to keep retweeting that young lady's argument like she's making a big point about how, we need health care. Yeah, no shit. We need legislators that actually want to legislate the bills for that. We need this, we need that. I relate more to people on food stamps than I do people who eat steak. And it's like, it's always about their comfort elevation. She could give fuck all about the black women who have literally, our mental health and physical health have suffered from the constant racial microaggressions, especially on the workforce, especially in school. Having to literally shed a cultural part of ourselves for a mediocre drop of acceptance. It's not okay. So yes, I am 100% with any representative who is pushing for the Crown Act. Welcome to the chat, respect. And I am over arguing with these Bernie brats. I want people to understand that we are going to stop amplifying the toxic. And we are going to deal with hope. And I know hope is hard right now because, like I said earlier this week, we came out of 4 years of a spiritually and mentally abusive situation. I say it all the time. I hate bringing up my past because I don't want pity for it. I just want to show people that it is possible. It's hard as hell. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Getting out of an abusive relationship was one of the scariest things in my life. And for years, I felt like I was never going to be safe again. Things were always going to be bad. I had to shed the layers of grip he had on my soul and my mind before I could work on myself. And you never 100% feel safe, but you start to hope a little bit more. You start to like yourself a lot more. You stop letting the horrible things that they say to you become the norm. You start smiling a bit more to yourself. You start realizing that it's okay to let somebody in, and it happens. But it's a process, and it takes constant work. Oh, yeah, that girl was, and I kept saying, why are people arguing with her? She got more interactions for people that were mad at the stuff she said than anybody with any sense. All that whining don't translate to votes. All the people that she stands for never win elections. So maybe let's not give her any more amplification. Let's stop giving her the attention that she craves. Because we don't even know if this person is real. And I wanted people to understand this. I've been saying this since Bernie's 2 failed runs. We have a lot of algorithm-seeking types out there that know there are certain hot button things they can post, get enough black people and so-called political leaning people riled up, and they know exactly how to push those buttons for engagement. Use a playing into their hands when you engage, retweet, to argue with them. I need you to understand that social media is a big-ass battlefield for both clicks, clout, views, and sales, and that some of you are being willing puppets to people who don't even care about the messages they're trying to spread. Come on now. Y'all are still arguing with people who willingly put emojis or hammer and sickle things in their name. You're arguing with anime avatars. It's got to stop. I need you to understand that sometimes it's not even a real person you're arguing with. They just know that this could be a hot button topic. This could be something they put out there, and they see just how many retweets and engagements they get. As somebody who has a high level of followers on Twitter, I'm constantly being inundated with, this is your algorithm. This is what you do in a day when you tweet. And they don't realize that I'm old and I don't give a fuck about that. But they keep pressing because they know there are people that market this shit. And you've got to be wary of being tools of that market. And it's really easy to want to school a seemingly young white chick who is out of the loop about the Crown Act, who want to push that class warfare, when your focus should be on your 4-year plan, because a lot of us have midterm elections coming up, and just protecting your hope and your sanity. Like I said earlier, with what I went through in 2005, escaping one of the worst 10 years of my life, with one of the best things in my life, my son, I realized that I had to work on myself and shed a lot of the self-defeating negativity. And it ain't easy. Lows happen. Depression still happens. But what I don't do is let it completely dominate how I think of myself. It ain't easy. There are people online to this day who get their jollies taking pot shots. I realized after a while that that's their damage. I had to stop giving people power over me that they don't deserve, and I had to protect my hope. This is important. I'm going to leave this up this whole entire time because this is what we're fighting for. And what inspired this Bonnet Chronicles was a few days ago, somebody I respect. And it's always hard for me when somebody I respect gives just this defeatist attitude. We're tired. It's only been a year in. We have a war going on in the Ukraine. We're still undoing so much damage from Trump's presidency. And people want things fast. They want a sideshow still, but with the good guys. They think that law and order should happen in 24 hours or less. And all I see is constant bitching and complaining. The Dems aren't being strong enough. They're not fighting hard enough. They're doing their fucking jobs. Some of you don't even realize how vital civics are. And how we need state reps that are willing to not be cruel. And that comes on our part. These people don't just get in the office magically. Some of them do shady things because they can get away with it. But for the most part, many of us are in districts where people just can't be bothered to do their basic civic duties. We are the cog that has to be strongly turning to keep our democracy safe. And all it requires us when we're 18 and older is to cast a ballot for a representative who wants to do the job. And when a representative shows us they don't want to do the job, we replace them with one that does. It really is that simple. Yet we have people that are like, I don't know about the Dems no more. Somebody give me hope. So when I do, I'm met with the wall of, no, this isn't good enough. And it's like, I don't know what to tell you anymore. I'm hopeful for the first time in 4 years. I've been able to sleep more. I've been on my routine more. There are still dark days, yes. I think that's realistic for anybody. With all the stuff we have going on in our lives, with all the loss we've had over the last 2 years, especially with COVID, it's natural to let the negative weigh on your soul. But I'm asking you, is it worth it? Is it worth it to let that defeatism blind you to the assignment? Everybody wants to talk about how the Dems aren't fighting enough, but I'll tell you the one party that's literally targeting children, literally trying to strip back rights for women, literally trying to go after my right to vote, who will keep the police funded towards military stuff instead of reforming them to do their damn jobs of protecting the servant. It's the conservatives. And if you want the GOP to continue to run this country into the shitter, sit home and do nothing. Bitch about how the Dems didn't do stuff fast enough. Or fucking get it together. It is so frustrating. Exactly, respect. It has been a constant repair job. And for everything that both the president and his vice president have been doing here and abroad to patch the fucking constant damage done by Trump and Pence. So just, I blame that fucker too for a lot of this shit. To let it be only things aren't going fast enough, so I just don't think the Dems can handle it. People with platforms just constantly spewing that bullshit because you're tired. And it's like I said, coming out of 4 years of hearing how I was ugly, but he loved me. Hearing how I would never survive on my own, but he loved me. Hearing how I was a drain to him, but I shouldn't leave him because he loved me. That double fucking talk. And we watched Trump do that to so many white people. We'll make this country great again. The country was fine. It wasn't perfect, but it was definitely in better shape before his ass took over. He wanted to make all the toxic standards the norm again. Because that man grew up in a time where Jim Crow was still a norm, where people like me knew our places, where he could legally tell us we couldn't rent from him. We could legally be awful. He wanted to drag America backwards to that. And some of you were willing to let him because you thought that was power. And it's shameful that this is the way it was. But enough of us got together collectively and said, no more. We are not going to let this man run us into the ground. We have lost way too many lives to a preventable pandemic. We have watched you hurt allies abroad. We watched you just willy-nilly go through one of the most toughest jobs in our nation like a toddler, tantruming, praising dictators while shitting on the people who should have been. We had a strong alliance with both Canada and Mexico. He blew that shit up. Committed human rights violations that we are still trying to sort out. And don't even get me started on how the conservatives trafficked kids from Mexico that they stole from them from those illegal camps. And now they're trying to do it to Ukrainian kids. We need to keep focused because there's only one party that is full on corrupt. And exactly, respect to my dying breath, it is my duty to make sure that no conservatives have a majority lead in our Congress, in our House ever again. That we no longer put them in the highest positions of power so that they can fuck us over while ingratiating their pockets. I know it's hard. I know for some of you, hope feels like it's distant, down that road. But are you just going to stand there complaining, letting the rain pour down on you instead of moving towards that goal of hope? And some of you's hope is just a ballot away. Getting rid of assholes like Abbott in Texas or DeSantis or any of the amount of fucking governors who are literally targeting our rights. We are the front that we need to be against this fuckery, if we want to be. But some of you would rather wallow foolishly in self-pity. And welcome to the chat, G. Feldman. And it's got to stop. We got to stop giving so much energy and attention to the trolls. They're not worth our time. They are just there to rile us up. They literally sell shirts talking about owning the libs. And the only reason why they were able to make that phrase is because they know us. They know a tweet can get us riled up and talking. They know that'll get them the engagement of said tweet. We have to stop making them famous. And we have to protect our hope. We literally have a president who was gruff. I'm not going to lie. Joe reminds me of my grandpa sometimes. Just that down-to-earth, funny man that isn't afraid to say what's on his mind, even if what's on his mind isn't always the greatest thing. I love my grandpa to death, but he wasn't a perfect man. He was full-on, made his wealth in the 1950s type male. He had a lot of very harsh ideals for people. I loved him, but I didn't love a lot of his ways. He had a very blunt thing about white people. He would not have condoned my current relationship at all. His sister had married a white man, and the moment they got into their first fight, he called the N-word, and my grandfather went ballistic on him and said, "They're only one bad day away from calling you that." And I carried that with me for the longest time. And I did not want that to be true, but it does happen. And I think that Joe reminds me of all those people that took in a lot of bad. And he's doing his best with an entitled nation to heal some of the wounds. And I'm sick of people going, well, he's not perfect. Who the fuck is? There's no such thing as perfection. There are people that want to get the fucking job done. And there are a lot of detractors because they know that if we're content, if things are finally starting to move in a civil pace, they no longer make money by complaining about shit. And they're dangerous. They're more, to me, dangerous than the dumb people who are literally killing themselves by ingesting cattle dewormer instead of getting their boosters. Because they know what they're doing is detrimental to all of us. They just don't care. That's why I said this defeatist attitude is not surprising. It's been brought on by a media who only wants to report the bad, still amplifies the losing side, still wants to bring 45 up, like anything he says is relevant and important, want to act like the January 6th Commission isn't going fast enough. People are being convicted left and right. Merrick Garland isn't giving enough speeches. When he does, it's not good enough. It is tiring repeating these talking points, but I have to because I see the same shit regurgitated on my Twitter daily. And if it's starting to get to me when I know I have hope to protect, I know it's getting to some of you defeatist types. And what do you do when you're already in that funk? You justify staying home in your local representation election. Like, the Dems ain't doing enough for me anyway. I'm just going to stay home. I don't feel like figuring out the easy ballot stuff. I don't want to stand in line. I should only come out when things go bad and it's an emergency. We got to do damage control. Y'all are part of the problem. You might not want to hear it, but it's the fucking truth. Your ability to rationalize away your apathy, the lack of focus you have in key state elections when we need you the most, when we've explained to you over and over that the president can only do so much. We need a functioning House and a functioning Senate to not only get stuff passed, but to make things better for all of us. And there's only one party, exactly, respect. There's only one party willing to elect people to do that job. And yes, like everything else, it's not 100%. We've had our character actor governors. We've had our character actor senators. We have the fucking squad because they go into districts where vetting is very limited. They say things to the Bernie brats who in those districts will turn out enough. They research the districts where they won't be challenged the hardest and they get elected and they cause hiccups. But what we can do is put peers against them to where their antics won't matter anyway. And that is on us. If you want hope, if you want the change, if you want the progress you want to whine about on Twitter, if you want a commission that will actually convict domestic terrorists, if you want things like reform in the police, freedom to choose our own medical procedures if we're women, the right to exist if you're LGBT, and especially the T. We have to vote for it. I need to say these things so that you understand the assignment. Because some of you just say you do, but I don't think you do, as you sit on Twitter bitching about everything, but you ain't talking about who you're voting for. And I don't see you. Don't think I don't see your tweets. I follow over 13,000 people out of the so-called 20 that follow me, because I never know if the person following me is just a crypto bot or just a hate follow. So if I follow you back, it might not be all the time because I can't respond to everybody every day anymore, but I see some of the stuff y'all post. Sometimes I like and agree with it. Sometimes I'm like, nope, I'm just going to leave this alone. It's their timeline. I'm not going to fuck with them. And sometimes y'all get me so depressed because you keep repeating the same defeatist talking points. The same talking points that keep people from turning out until there's a crisis. Biden's win was a response to the crisis that 45 kept putting us in. And it shouldn't have been this way. Trump shouldn't have been able to steal the fucking election in the first place. But I am so tired of you electing Dems as cleanup people for fucking messes. And then forgetting in 4 years all the horrors that we went through with the Republican that's given us another equal disaster or worse. I don't think we get worse than Bush. And I'm going to be 100%. Trump makes George Bush look like what you put Reagan on, because Reagan was a fucking nightmare. And it irks me because I grew up in the Reagan era. I've seen how New York was a fucking war zone. People were living in their cars. The drug epidemic gripped us. AIDS was taking lives left and right, and people were like, oh no, that's just a moral thing. It wasn't until Rock Hudson and several famous people started putting a more famous face on this that people started to understand that this is a human issue. And I don't care if you morally agreed with people's lifestyle as you ignored your relative that was shooting up, especially in our community. It was real funny how they could ignore the person poisoning their system to damn near death. But oh no, my son or daughter can't be gay or lesbian. Heaven forbid if they were trans. Y'all are some fucking hypocrites. The Reagan era was awful. The Bush era was a fucking snooze fest that ended up giving us Clinton, who cleaned up so much of the mess of trickle down. And then you rewarded us with GWB. I don't even think that man is fucking literate. We had nothing but terrorism attacks on our soil because of him. He was a laughingstock here and abroad, and I thought, if he is the worst thing to us, president-wise, in recent history, it'll be fine. Because he was a benign idiot. He did damage, but it wasn't irreparable damage. It wasn't hundreds of thousands of lives lost in a sitting, a preventable sitting style damage. My hometown is still scarred from GWB's presidency. But for real, when I say he's still better than the 4 years we just got through, that's not hyperbole. That's the realities of knowing that family members died because they were neglected, because they caught COVID, because we were told, oh, it's not as bad. You can't catch it. It's not airborne. A president who sat on all the information for months as the shit ravished us. Who fired the research team that was supposed to let him know what was going on so that we could prepare for this. There's a reason why when President Obama was in charge, Zika made its way into the country. We didn't even get double digits death in that. We had some infections, but we had a research team. We had people who cared about keeping us safe that kept us from being a global pandemic. And when you replace it with a self-gratulating, grifting idiot and his just crotch goblins full of awful people, firing responsible people, arguing with the CDC, giving interviews to assholes like Bob Woodworth, who sat on that information. I'm never going to let you forget that. That's why I don't like fucking medias trying to be famous and sell books. Fuck y'all. The fact that you knew that this pandemic was worse and you waited to sell a fucking book, shame on you. 45 was awful. 45 was emotionally, mentally, and spiritually abusive. So I understand why so many people don't believe we're free of it. So many people just want to rush to all the good things without realizing that that takes work. But if you truly understand the assignment, if you truly understand what we have to do, our part in protecting hope, you'll get out, you'll vote, you'll make sure that your state and local representatives aren't child sex traffickers, aren't fucking conservative assholes who would rather promote bigotry and that America First attitude when they put our country last. Like that bleach blonde Muppet, MTG, or Bobbert, who after I started calling her dollar store Lisa Loeb, tried to change her look only to gaffe by calling, she made up a military rank. These are supposed to be the party that cares about our vets. They don't even know military ranks. We have races that can be won. We just have to have the attitude that we get when we're pushed too far in every single race. And it has to be whether we're in bad times or not. I'm fully supporting Governor Whitmer's rerun here. Because even in the bad times of COVID, she busted her ass for us. Right now in Michigan, we are literally having the trial of 14 idiots, 14 wannabe militiamen who are going to kidnap, do horrible things to her, and try to end her life. That is the reality of the conservative party. Raising toxic males who can only bring out their aggression violently. And if you want that to stop being our norm, we have to stop electing people that coddle that mentality. We have to start showing people that that attitude will not sustain us. We don't want it anymore. Welcome to the chat, Beans. They were. The story has been coming out, and I've been following it, and it just amazes me. The grown-ass people did this in response to her saying, there's a pandemic. I am locking down the state. I am putting in a mask mandate. I want y'all to live. And it was like, fuck you, you're government. You can't tell me what to do. These same people are fucking cheating the government left, right, and center. Unemployment dinged my household. And I hate bringing this up, but when the pandemic hit, Greg's parents felt the brunt of it. His mom got sick. We weren't sure what it was. He had to start taking time off work. He finally took an unpaid leave. Rightfully so, he applied for unemployment benefits because he wasn't earning an income. They let him go last year, and he was fully unemployed. We worked towards getting our boosters, and he's back in the workforce. State of Michigan said, you took unemployment benefits the wrong way, because his former employers lied and said he left the job when he didn't, because they didn't want to cover the losses. It's a mess. And for every one of us who did things the right way with it, you have people who literally scammed this state, out of state. There were people from fucking California able to claim unemployment benefits here in Michigan. There were people who were taking PPE loans knowing they didn't have a business. We had to fire the person who was in charge of unemployment here. And it's a fucking mess of backed up, overworked, stressed out customer service reps taking angry calls from people who can't understand why they're being dinged for something they didn't do wrong. And we're fighting it, but it's a fucking mess. And there are real people being hurt by this. And I need representatives who will listen and make sure that families like mine aren't hurt by this, because we're finally lifted up. The Biden administration has helped my household get necessary supplies for kiddos' school. Our bills are finally in a steady loop. And a lot of yous, I think, for that too. Don't think I don't notice days where it's like, how am I going to cover this? That I'll look and somebody just out of the blue helps out, and I appreciate that. And it's a struggle for me. I'm being 100% because I'm not used to kindness without strings attached. So if I ever seem funny time about it, it's not that I don't appreciate y'all. It's just I'm always afraid that that kindness is going to come with the now you owe me leans. And I know none of y'all have done that. But it's just the product of dealing with those type of people all my life. I started this cast by talking about how somebody who's related to me found me on Twitter and did that emotionally manipulative bullshit. They know how to press my buttons. What they don't understand about me is that 10 is gone. Years of dealing with the emotional manipulation has eroded any sense of compassion I have for their antics. I know that if I opened that door that I shut and bolted, that not only would they push in, but they would drain every bit of energy I have left. I let what she said get to me just a little bit, and then I realized this is all they have. This is the only way they can get to me, by reminding me that they're there. And I'm just not going to let it bother me anymore. I have my house. I have my health that I'm working on. I have this Bonnet Chronicle. I have friends who are more like family to me than anybody that shares those blood ties. And I'm good. I have hope. And I know it's hard for people to understand, but when you've gone through the hells that so many of us have gone through, when you are still here in your 40s, when you thought you weren't going to be, it's either keep wallowing until those dark thoughts take you out, or fight for the better that you know you can have. And I'm not saying this like I'm some motivational speaker that says it's easy. No, it's work. And that's why so many people don't want to do it, because it's easy to just sit there and complain and whine about how things ain't going fast enough and things ain't getting better, and why should I hope for anything? Because what's the alternative? You just slowly poisoning your mind and body spiritually until there's nothing left? Going out in this world feeling like nothing matters when you matter? Come on now. Hope isn't a commodity I see shared enough either. I see a lot of hate shared. I see a lot of clapback shared. I see a lot of anger shared. But where's the hope? Where's the smiles? Where's the joy? Yeah, I know when we showed our joyful warrior MVP, you get those Karens that want to angry talk about how this isn't presidential-like. Don't let them get to you. That's all they have. Bitter Beckys are going to stay bitter. They don't have to steal our joy. They don't even have to understand our joy anymore. We're not doing this for them. We have to stop giving them that attention. The moment I see those types now, instead of amplifying or arguing with them, I'm just going to block them. They have enough of their own shitty circle. They can prop each other up if they want. I want to talk to the people who are hurting right now, who are losing hope, to focus. Because once we start really taking the shit seriously, doing our part, because it is really the most bare minimum part of saving our democracy, things will get better. We can push back and repeal the oppressive legislation against us. We can start putting out legislation that stops dehumanizing those of us who know that pain. We can start moving forward and tackling the issues. We have issues from education to law enforcement that needs looking at. But we don't have enough people that give a fuck yet. And until we start doing our bare minimum to elect leaderships and representative of our voices, because the other side, they know how to rally to amplify their toxic negativity, we are going to keep getting the same repetitive cycle of letting the GOP run us into the ground until everything is burning, and then expecting them to not only put out the fire fast enough, appease all your unrealistic goals, and then still lose because it wasn't good enough. And look, Trump was bad enough. I lost family because of Trump. I lost dear friends because of Trump. I don't want to see what the GOP does to replace that man, or worse yet, try to give him back to us again. We need to keep on point. Get out all of his sycophants, get out all of his enablers, and get a Congress and Senate that fucking works for us, that are our voices. America is just such a fucked up place, and it's fucked up because we allow it to be. We let that apathy steal our hope, and it's gotta stop, y'all. I know it feels like too much sometimes, and it's just like I said in a vlog that I'm gonna put up tomorrow, so you don't have a frame of reference, but I talked about my exercise routine and how years ago I was doing this from a bed because I was so big that it was hurting to even sit in a chair. And while the weight loss is not rapid, because rapid weight loss does not work for me, not with my mental issues, I realize that I am slowly chiseling away the damage I've done due to comfort eating from stress of dealing with my mom's antics, dealing with all the pressures that I was dealing with. I realize that I will get results if I put the effort in. It's not to be skinny, and I've warned people that too. I've never felt natural with a slim figure. And that's not to ding people with slim figures. I think you find what works for you, and curvy has always worked for me, but I don't need to be dangerously curvy to be body positive. And I think a lot of people take that message the wrong way and think, oh, you're just being fat phobic against yourself. It's internalized fat phobia. That's not a thing. And I need to be serious about that because there are way too many people pushing unhealthy standards that they know ain't healthy, but they don't want to fucking change. And like I said, my size is self-inflicted. It is not there for people to mock. It is years of stress eating when things got stressful, comfort eating when I was being yelled at by the people that I thought loved me, and just dealing with a world that doesn't make sense to me most of the time. And I've had to work on patterns and break certain patterns. And like everything, it's not 100%. But I know that when I put the effort in, I get results. And putting the effort in doesn't mean I'm not an ally. But I'm not an ally to your lifestyle. And I need to be 100% about that. It annoys me that people think I have to be an ally to this lifestyle because I'm a big girl. I like myself. That's how I'm body positive. If you can't say the same thing confidently, you're not body positive. And you can put on all the acts you want, but when you're eating and crying on camera for money, you're not fooling anybody with that body positive stuff. And it just troubles me how we elevate and amplify this toxic side of humanity. We have to get away from that. We have to have hope. We have to put in the work, even if it starts as bare minimum effort to be politically more aware, socially more aware, personally more aware. Even if it takes you giggling sometimes when you look in the mirror and say, I like what I see. Even if you don't initially agree with it or believe it, you keep working on it, chipping away all that damage, all that emotional baggage that other people put on you. You'll get there. I say this as somebody who still has issues. I don't shy away from that either. The emotional toll of this life has done its number on me. I'm trying not to let it take me out. And one of the things that I do to help fight against it is I hold on to the positives. I knew that after 2021, things were going to be all right. It didn't have to be perfect, but it was going to be all right. And I wish more of us would see that. See the goals that we can all get to if we work together. See the pluses that we have now that we didn't even 2 years ago. I know that with what's going on abroad especially, we're inundated by more negativity. We see the horrible images of bombed out places. We're wondering, what can we do? What should we do? How can we weigh in without this becoming World War III? And if we can even do that. Because it's going to get to a point where we can't just stay out of this conflict. Putin is playing a very shitty hand of chess, and he's not a master chess player. And we're trying to do things the diplomatic route, but like many of us who grew up in the Cold War especially, we know that there's probably going to be direct conflict, and it sucks. Because there's no winners in this. And I know that whatever the president decides, it's going to be after careful consideration, careful weighing in, talking to experts, and doing what's best for all of us and the people of Ukraine. And I know some of you can't accept this because you have unrealistic expectations of both what the president can do, what the vice president can do. But the reality is, this is not a game. This is not a TV show. And we need to do things carefully. Because while, yes, Ukrainian lives are suffering right now, and I hate this. I don't want this for them. I want them to be living in peace. I don't want that madman bombing their beautiful homes. I don't want to see crying kids fleeing, shell-shocked. But until we get enough people in our damn Congress that have a fucking backbone and a soul and a not direct access bank account to oligarchs, we can't build a functioning front against these madmen, which is what America was supposed to be. I remember learning about how Theodore Roosevelt wanted us to carry a big stick, be the policemen of the world, which is not realistic in any way, shape, or form. We definitely need to learn that balance of minding our fucking business and only getting involved when we absolutely have to. We don't need to be the nosy neighbor globally. But realistically speaking, America was looked at as that beacon, not only of hope, but the cooler head in the room. And we did not have that for many years now. And we are still repairing the damage of not having that. So we need a president that can make cool decisions. Stuff that not everybody's going to agree with, but it's the best we can do with a shitty situation. And when you are an adult and you understand that, when you're an adult and you understand pragmatism especially, the stuff I'm saying makes sense. But when you are stuck in that defeatist attitude, oh no, everything I just said this evening probably got on your nerves. You're probably crossing your arms, getting mad, and I don't care. Because nothing I said ain't the truth. You know your part in this. Every time I look at assholes like McConnell, who's still sitting senator, why? MTG and Bobbert, who are representatives, why? Because they can turn out enough of their base to win elections. And some of the people were, well, what about voter suppression? Yeah, there's a number of us that are affected by voter suppression. It ain't some of you, and it's definitely not the ones who use with a D by your name that are melanin deficient. And if enough of you turned out the way you expect us when a crisis happens to turn out, we wouldn't have Muppets like Bobbert and MTG. You're not going to lay this at the feet of black people. Y'all need to turn out too. You need to understand the assignment goes in both state and local politics. And it shouldn't take when they revoke rights for you to understand the damage of the conservative party. We need you to pay attention and understand the repeated assignment that you have to take every midterm, every local election, every school board election matters. Even your county comptroller, because that's still a thing. Those are the people that do the budget. And you know how many fucking conservatives fuck that up. There's a town in Tennessee currently that the white people had it, fucked it up, fleed. Now it's all black people. They built it up. They had a Ford factory about to be built there that could have brought income stable jobs and money, the white town charters next to them said, you're going to surrender or we are going to revoke your town charter. It's not as violent as Tulsa or Rosewood or Pennsylvania or many other towns here in America that had black massacres whenever we thrived and prospered. But it's the same fucking thing over and over. And those people were elected to be that cruel. So if what's going on there angers you, let that carry you to your ballot, whether it's an absentee, whether it's an early vote, or whether you stand in line on election day. Remind yourself that if we don't do our part, these cruel assholes will target us. They will steal our hope. They will abolish our joy. They will make it illegal for us to exist. They will pull us back to the times of America where people wore those plastic 1950s smiles while drinking and drugging themselves to death because the pressures of that toxic supposed American dream was more harmful than just letting people be. These people are anti-education because they know knowledge is true power. These people are anti-letting people live their lives because they know that their only control is to tell people how to exist. They use faith as a cudgel instead of a guide, and we have to stop rewarding them with power. So if anything I say resonates, take it with you to the ballots. Elect people who want to get the job done. There are so many awesome people running. We have Connor Lamb in Pennsylvania, Beto O'Rourke in Texas, Val Demings in Florida, Gretchen Whitmer here in Michigan, Stacey Abrams, who was on Star Trek. I teared up seeing her portray the president of the United, I think, Galactic, whatever it's called. You know, I know my nerd cred is going to be dinged for it, but it makes me tear up seeing that she is so unapologetically herself, and she cares about Georgia. And she has a chance to not only unseat Kemp, but to do what Georgia needs. Enough of allowing this loud, wrong bigotry that has harmed your state. We have so many people that just want to run and do right by us. Don't let them down. Come on now. Oh, President of United Earth. Thank you, Terry. It made me tear up because seeing that photo of her and then going and looking at the clip, I was like, this is it. This is the future that I want to push towards. Where our leaders, no matter what, whether they're black, trans, Asian, Hispanic, white, we all need that chance to prove that we care and we are leaders. But we're not going to get that if we keep letting conservatives con us into spots of power that they don't deserve. And this is a chance to not only make sure that they never hold our presidency again, but to make sure that they have limited to no power in our Congress and limited to no power in our local elections. Because they're the ones book banning. They're the ones trying to strangle our hope away. And we can't just keep laying there and letting them do that. I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Y'all, thank you so much for joining the chat. Respect, Terry Antico, Beans, G. Feldman, Solomon Isles, if you're still there lurking. I appreciate you all so much. And I know that it's been a rough week. I know there was a lot of negativity. And I know that's what these Bonnet Chronicles is going to definitely have to combat. But I want to remind you of this. Remember, hope. It was our MVP's message because she believes in it. And I want y'all to take that with you into this weekend. Hope. I'll be back on Tuesday, hopefully with a not so heavy topic. But if it is, you know I'll treat it with as much grace and respect as I can. I just want you to have a great weekend. Hug your families, hug your petties if you got them. The pet pictures really help uplift me a lot. I'm not going to let my relatives' antics get to me, even though it was a rough few days. I'm going to enjoy time with Kiddo and Axiom, and I will see you all soon. I really love you guys. Thank you so much. And when half the people, Exactly. And people globally were praising her too. So for real, I am not going to let the negative people steal our joy. We have way too much to push forward to, and there's just so much to look forward to. And I am just so grateful to all of you. But yeah, I'm going to go wrap it up, go heat up dinner for Greg and I, and just chill. And I'll see some of y'all later. Whew, it's been a good week, and it's been a bad week and in between, but I'm still grateful to all of y'all. I love y'all, and you have a great night.